Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to be making 4 recipes using ground beef. Of course, if you don't like ground beef, you could also replace this with ground turkey or even ground chicken. It's totally up to you. I hope you like these recipes. Let's go ahead and get started. First up today, we're making a homemade Salisbury steak. To begin, I'm going to slice up 8 ounces of mushrooms along with 1 entire yellow onion. Now into a large bowl, I have 1 pound of ground beef. I am using 85/15 for this recipe. I also added 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, 1/3 cup of plain breadcrumbs, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Now you can use a spoon if you want to, but the best way to get this combined is by using your hands. Once it is combined, I'm going to go ahead and divide it into 4 equal patties, and I'm going to make these pretty thick. Now going over to my hot cast iron skillet, I did heat up a couple tablespoons of olive oil in there, and now we're just going to cook our patties right in here. I cooked these on both sides for about 4 to 5 minutes until they were nicely browned and cooked through. Once they were done cooking, I just removed them over to a plate, and in that same skillet, I did not drain any of the grease. It wasn't super fatty. It was just enough to make sure that my onions and mushrooms did not stick to the bottom. You want to just cook these until they're nice and tender and get this beautiful color right here that I'm showing you. And then once those are done, you can also just take those and remove them over to your skillet. Now we're going to start working on the sauce, so I added in about 3 tablespoons of butter into my skillet. I gave that butter time to melt down, and then I added in 3 tablespoons of flour. I whisked that together and let that flour cook in the pan for about 2 minutes. Slowly, I'm going to start adding in some beef broth. I had just under 2 cups, so I would say anywhere between 1.5 to 2 cups of beef broth would be appropriate. I slowly added that in here and got it whisked until it was nice and thick. Once my flour is mostly absorbed, I'm going to go ahead and add 1.5 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce and get that mixed in there as well, along with about a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I let this gravy cook for about 5 minutes, and then once it had thickened up nicely, everything was absorbed, I added back in the meat and the mushroom and onion. I tried to mix it around and get everything nicely covered and get that gravy distributed across everything as evenly as I could. And I just let these all warm up in here together for about 5 to 10 minutes. Do make sure to taste your gravy before adding everything back in. It's going to be really hard to adjust the seasonings after you add everything back in, so make sure you do that. But this is what my plate looked like in the end. I did just make some mashed potatoes to go with this, and I absolutely love making this Salisbury steak. My mom used to buy the frozen ones as a kid, and now I just despise those. And once I figured out how to make this, golden, so good. My husband has been asking for beef stroganoff for a while now, so I figured this is the week to do it. We're starting off by chopping up 1/2 of a yellow onion and slicing 8 ounces of mushrooms. Over to a nice big pot on my stove, I'm adding 1 pound of ground beef. This ground beef was actually very lean, it was 93.7. I'm also going to add in my mushroom and onion, that way they can all cook together and all absorb that good flavor. Once the meat was cooked through, I did add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, gave it a good stir, and let that cook for an additional minute. Now you will need 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. I just mixed that right in with everything. This is going to absorb any liquid or grease in your pan. I let that flour cook for about a minute or 2 before adding in my beef broth and heavy cream. You will need 1 cup of each of those. And then you'll also need 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. I went ahead and lightly seasoned this for now, that way it just had a little bit of flavor to work with. I added a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of pepper, and about a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. I let this simmer for about 5 minutes before adding in my noodles. I just cooked up about 12 ounces of egg noodles, but I think that I would have been good with just 10 ounces. It wasn't as saucy as I wanted it to, so I would cut back the noodles just a bit. I turned my burner off and let this sit for about 5 more minutes before adding in my sour cream. You just want to make sure that it's not scorching hot when you add your sour cream in. I added about a half cup of sour cream, but if you don't like the flavor of sour cream, you can always cut that back a little bit. I did adjust the seasonings a little bit more after adding in my sour cream. I added more salt and pepper, so make sure you give that a taste. But this is what my finished plate looked like. I did just serve this with some Italian style green beans, and this was dinner this night. Next, I absolutely love these cheeseburger wraps. They are so good. I always eat way too many. I started by preheating my oven to 400 degrees, and then I sliced up 2 large yellow onions. Over to my skillet, I added about 3 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to let that all heat up in my pan and add in those onions. And we're going to cook these onions for about 40 minutes on a medium to low heat until they are nice and tender and caramelized. I do add just a touch of salt and pepper for a little extra flavor, but that's all you need to worry about with these. Just make sure you stir them every once in a while. Into another skillet, I'm adding 1 pound of ground beef. This is a 93.7, so it's pretty lean. As you can see, mine was still a little bit frozen. I didn't realize it was still that frozen, so I had to let it warm up for a few minutes. And then I just seasoned it with a little bit of salt, pepper, and garlic powder to start. And then I just left it so it could finish cooking all the way through. Meanwhile, I went ahead and made our spread. Into this little bowl, I have 4 ounces of softened cream cheese, a half cup of mayonnaise, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, and about a half teaspoon of chives. Go ahead and just get that mixed together and then set it aside until everything else is done. Now, once my ground beef is all the way cooked through, I am adding about 2 tablespoons total of ketchup and 1 teaspoon of mustard. You'll just combine this in the ground beef. Make sure you mix it until you don't see any more red or yellow. Here is what your onions should look like at the end of those 40 minutes. They should have some really good color and they will be nice and tender. To get started with building these wraps, we're going to go ahead and split this spread between the 8 tortillas. I had 2 more tortillas off to the side. I just didn't have enough room on my cutting board to show you all 8 of them. I just spread that around. It doesn't have to be perfect, just make sure you get it covered on the tortilla the best you can. Next, you'll just split up those caramelized onions between your 8 tortillas. Just make sure you try to avoid grabbing any extra butter and oil out of the pan. Same thing with the ground beef, I'm just evenly splitting that between the 8 tortillas. And last but not least, we're going to add some shredded cheese. Freshly shredded is better. I did not have that on hand at the time, but I am using some shredded sharp cheddar. Now it's time to start rolling these up. You'll just need to make sure they're in a pretty good straight line, and you will just pull the tortilla over the top, trying to scoop it under just a little bit and then roll it the rest of the way up. After getting them rolled up, you'll just add them onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. Try to make sure there's a little bit of room between them. You don't want them touching completely, so make sure you leave at least a teeny bit of space between each one. Over the tops of these, I am going to lightly spray them with a little bit of olive oil spray, just so they crisp up in the oven. Here's what they look like coming out of the oven. Once you start seeing the ends turn brown, it's time to take them out. Mine actually baked for about 12 minutes, and this is what they'll look like when they are all done. I love these. I don't know what it is about them, but they are one of my favorites, and I always eat way too much. I said that earlier, but it's true. I eat way too many of them at one time. They're just so delicious. On the side, as you can see, just like it would be with a burger, I made some French fries. And to end this video, we are making this beef and zucchini stir fry. You know my husband didn't eat this night, so I just made this for me, and then I saved the rest of it for lunches. I went ahead and sliced up 1 medium zucchini, 8 ounces of mushrooms, and also 1 green onion. For the sauce, you will need to add in 1 tablespoon of sesame seed oil, about 1/4 cup of soy sauce. I'm actually using coconut aminos, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of hot sauce. I just got that mixed together and set it aside for right now. Now over to my skillet, I'm adding in 1 pound of ground beef. I believe this was also a lean ground beef at 93.7. I went ahead and just got that chopped up and added a dash of salt and pepper to begin. Once my ground beef was cooked, I went ahead and just removed that over to a separate bowl for right now. And then into the same pan, I added in my zucchini and mushrooms. I let those cook for about 5 to 7 minutes until they were nice and tender. And then I added in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic and let that cook for another minute or so. Now you can go ahead and add your beef back in along with the sauce and get that all mixed together. On the side, I made a package of ramen noodles without the seasoning packet. I went ahead and mixed that together with everything, and then this is what my finished plate looked like. I just added some sriracha on the top along with the green onions I sliced up, and this was so good. Thank you so much for watching today. I really hope you enjoyed these meals and got some good ideas out of them. Leave me a flower down below if you made it all the way through this video. I will see you guys back here on Wednesday with a new one. Bye guys.